everyone, and from the title you can tell we are making Shakshuka. This has to be like, what, the 5th time I've made this for you guys? I know I post this a lot, but I was thinking, YouTube, it takes forever for me to edit. So let's get something that's minimal editing, something that you guys can get either weekly or bi-weekly. I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna do this yet. And so you guys all have an organized place to see the recipes, instead of having to scroll through TikTok, go to the playlist tab, which sucks, honestly. So yeah, I thought I'd do it for you guys. Here too, if you watch it on YouTube, you'll get a little bit more in depth. I'll talk a little bit about my experience with the food, and just a reminder that it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to use the same amount as I do. But yeah, let's get into it.
So, audio doesn't work. That sucks. So I'm recording a voiceover for it now. But I gotta use the fancy microphone. Ooh. You guys are in for a treat. And one last thing to say before I actually start talking about the food. I am recording this at 10:30 at night on Thursday. I had all day to do this. I recorded the day before. So if I by any chance get this up by tomorrow, by Friday, July 29th, make sure to tell me good job in the comments. So a bit of a backstory on Shakshuka itself. It's a Middle Eastern breakfast that can be eaten at any time, but typically breakfast. And it's typically tomatoes, onions, and eggs. And of course all the other spices you want to add. Now some recipes do use other vegetables like bell peppers, spinach, or whatever, but I'm not a fan of bell peppers, so we're just gonna keep it simple. And I hope my knife skills aren't freaking you out too much. All of my cooking techniques I've sort of just picked up, so clearly I haven't really learned how to use a knife. But anyway, I got 140 grams of tomatoes and 85 grams of onion. And as you can see, I'm just chopping them up. I like to get them in cubes, but again, not the best at cutting. At least onions are a bit easier, but as you could tell, I still had problems. Definitely got easier when I put it on the side though. Now that our vegetables are chopped up though, it's time to prepare the meat. Traditionally it's served with chicken, beef, or just no meat at all. Today I chose beef solely for the fact that it was starting to go bad. I want to make sure to cook it before. Plus, as much as I love chicken, I think it just tastes better with beef. I'm using 7.3 ounces of 97 beef, and just again, reminder, you don't have to use this much. Mine will probably be a little bit higher calorie than usual because I'm just finishing the beef. Now to the start of the show, the seasoning. When it comes to ground beef, I think you only need these spices. I'd list them off, but this is the 5th time recording this, so they're on the screen. And as far as paprika, that's a mix, but honestly just regular paprika would work. I'm putting this next part in 4x speed because you guys gotta see the whole thing. I wish you could hear it too. The sizzle was like music to my ears. One of the things I forgot to mention is that I love you could just use this one pan the whole time. Kind of makes you feel like you're actually making something fancy. I'm gonna make sure the beef's cooked before we add our vegetables. Now traditionally this is also cooked with olive oil, but since we're trying to make it lower calorie, we're not gonna use that today. And if you just happen to stumble on this account without knowing what I do, well, first off, hey, hope you enjoy the content. Second off, I try to make low calorie foods for you so that you don't have to compromise your taste buds on a diet. I used to be overweight, and honestly the hardest part for me was to find foods that actually tasted good. But once I found other accounts that ended up showing me low calorie recipes, that helped me a lot and ended up losing 70 pounds. That's why in these recipes, I'm gonna end up saying the exact amount of the ingredients I used, as well as the calories. Dieting doesn't have to be hard, so let's make something that actually tastes good. That's for the long-time followers. I know you guys missed it. As the beef gets closer to getting done, then we're gonna add our vegetables. All our vegetable and our identity crisis. Is a tomato even a vegetable? Is it a fruit? Anyway, we end up adding our tomato and onion later on just so we could saute it in those juices. I know I've done it differently in the past. Shouldn't have. So take this as me fixing my mistake. I mentioned earlier, but make sure the tomato juices stay with the tomato. Make sure that it's all mixed up. You could brown your onions, but I kinda like it raw. Don't take that out of context. Now to thicken it up a bit and give it more of a paste-like texture, you could add tomato sauce. This is also great if you didn't add enough tomatoes. See soon enough that I ended up adding 1/4 of a cup. To give it sort of an earthy feel, I'd add cumin. Tastes great, brings the whole dish together. As you can see, you just stir it around a bit, but for now I'm just gonna shut up until the next step and let you enjoy the time lapse. Now once it starts to get to this color, you're going to want to make pockets for your eggs. I ended up adding 3 eggs. This is what originally drew me to this recipe because it just shouldn't make sense to me. Eggs and tomatoes? That just doesn't make sense to me. But I'm glad I took a chance because up to that point, there was no other food that tasted like that. And even now, every time I make it, I fall in love with it again, just the same. I add salt to the eggs and then cover it. I like my eggs more runny with this, so I'll know when it's done when the yolk starts to turn white. And now we're nearing our final steps. Now one of the last steps is parsley, because of course I love my presentation. It makes the dish look a lot more enticing. And finally, feta cheese. I'm using a low-fat feta cheese, but it tastes just the same. And just like that, our shakshuka's done. Traditionally this is eaten with naan bread or pita bread, but I'm just gonna use a fork. This is one of the recipes that will always be near and dear to my heart, and that's for a few reasons. When I first discovered this recipe, I'd only been cooking for about a year. Cooking was still a new hobby and a new love to me, and that was before I even decided to branch out. Shakshuka sort of opened my eyes to show me what else the world has to offer, at least in terms of food. And for the second reason, this is one of the first TikToks that I posted that blew up, well, at least got me traction. And honestly, I was nervous as hell to post this. I mean, I've only been cooking for about a year and a half. I was scared of what people were gonna say, but I ended up getting a bunch of positive feedback. And even though I branched out a little bit from the cooking stuff, you guys still support everything I do. So I wanted to say thank you, and I love all you guys. We're almost at 25K on TikTok. But the reason I'm being sappy is to give you guys a message. Don't let that fear stop you from doing what you want to do. Take a chance, because you'll never know what would have been. And I know if I would have listened to that fear of being ridiculed, I would have never helped all y'all. And I would have never gained such a positive following. Thank y'all. I love y'all. And hopefully reach 25K soon. And this was Shakshuka.